Makes it feel good.
Sure.
But then this happens, 18 months later.
All right, call to order, Safety and Public Works Committee meeting, Monday, September 19th, 2022, 7:30 PM in council chambers. 6 items tonight, first of which is a street closure event application for the skate company, Brainerd Skate Company, or is it Skate Company? Skate Co. Grand opening. Jesse, if you want to fill us in on this.
Good evening, gentlemen. So this is a request for a street closure on Front Street between South 8th and South 9th Streets. They want to close down the one block for their grand opening event. They have a handful of different things, music, barbecue, some skateboarding going on, some signs and banners. They've already talked with Minnesota Tees, who's their next door neighbor there. They're closed on Saturdays. They've given them the blessing to go ahead with it. This does happen at the same time as Touch a Truck, just nearby, as well as the Flapjack Festival, so that whole downtown area is going to be a little bit cluttered, but we don't feel like this block is going to be a highly traveled block anyway, so we're pretty okay with the closure. We're just asking that they request the traffic control, remove any signs after they're done, and then they make sure that they get us their insurance certificate prior to the event. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add with it.
Okay. Anything insurance-wise would be covering the possibility of skateboarding accidents or getting burned on a grill.
Or, yeah, barbecue.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to recommend approval of the attached application with the 3 conditions mentioned. Request traffic control, remove any signs and banners after the event, and then submittal of insurance prior to.
And I do second the motion.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, second item is a high-tech sign on the historic water tower. Basically just a council approval. We talked about this last week. I don't know, do we have a example of what they want to hang?
Yes, so this was kind of a one I got just today, so it's on the screen here for you. What they're proposing is something very similar to this, with those 3 logos back to back to back. I guess it'll depend on how it fits. It's a 4-foot by 30-foot wide banner.
Okay.
So it'll just depend on how their printing company is able to fit it. So they might start repeating high tech, depending on how it fits. But this is generally the concept of what they're thinking of with that banner.
LHB?
Yep.
I don't recognize that one.
I'm guessing that's their sub.
Okay. And is this vertical, wrapped around horizontally,
Horizontally.
up on top, or where would it be?
I believe it's around the middle, if I remember right.
Okay.
But the mayor had mentioned that he would prefer to see it not on the side facing the intersection. That he'd rather it see more on the east side of the water tower.
Towards the easement that we've set up?
Yes, generally. Yep. Maybe
Yeah.
towards 210. I think high tech would prefer towards 210, but
Yeah.
the mayor just kind of mentioned not to have it towards that intersection anyway.
Yeah, usually this time of year, sometimes characters show up on that side towards the intersection, I know.
That was his other reasoning for it not to be on the west side.
All
Was
right.
For the Halloween decorations.
All right. Any more questions?
Yeah, just a couple of comments, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's great to see the sign design, because I did have, a bunch of questions and, just regarding sign design, everything from font size and letter height, because when you've got a sign on a well-traveled and road that's 35 miles an hour, there are definitely guidelines for appropriate heights so that it doesn't become a dangerous distraction to drivers. This thing having an approximate height of 4 feet might be okay. It might be nice to see it a little bit taller in length, or taller in height, just so that these things are a little bit more recognizable. But the fact that they are basically logos, yeah, so I think it kind of satisfies concerns that I had leading up to this. So with that, yeah, I make a motion to approve the sign installation as described, basically facing the east side, wrapping around horizontally. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Well, just wanted to say too, I guess, hopefully this will help raise awareness and raise some private funds for the water tower. I'm sure that's part of the hope, so.
Yeah, we still do have another step to go through with that, so more awareness is always good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Third item, we have a CWC custom fuel sales agreement. And this one is a little more complicated. If you want to take us through that one, Mr. Dean?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So this agreement kind of formalizes our understanding with the county. Currently, we purchase our fuel for our transit buses through their bulk fuel, and we kind of reap the benefits of their bulk fuel discounts. This agreement kind of formalizes that in a 3-year term. They do have an account setup fee that, since we're kind of a current customer, they're not planning to charge us for that. The only difference between our previous understanding and this agreement is the addition of a 10% overhead fee to cover their administrative costs, maintenance to the fuel system, and their testing compliance fees. Other than that, it's essentially as it is currently. We still will be reaping the benefit of a slightly cheaper fuel, but it will not be as much of a discount as we had before. If I remember right, I believe Andy's comment was we were generally about 50 cents per gallon cheaper. So for ease of math, if you were thinking it was about $3.50 per gallon before, it'd be about $3.85 with the extra 10%. So we'd still, if the current price was $4, you're still saving 15 cents a gallon, which, considering how much fuel we do purchase for those buses, is quite a bit of money, but not as much as it used to be.
Right. Not as much savings as it once was. Go ahead.
Just a couple of comments then. So I was at the TAC meeting where this was discussed as well. So, and I was just going to confirm, and we're still saving. You already reiterated, or already mentioned this, but I'll just reiterate. We're still saving with this. It's just a little less of a savings than in previous years because of this.
From what Andy had mentioned, yes.
Yeah. And then I would also mention too that, in the memo here's the staff recommendation, but also the recommendation of the TAC, as we did vote on this as well.
Okay.
And then, in the notes here, it talks about I'll just elaborate a little bit on the discussion that we had. The recommendation from the TAC is to approve this agreement, but also to have staff discuss with Crow Wing County staff as well, not to negotiate, but just to discuss, the reasons behind. And I think we did reiterate there was, Crow Wing County had some pump replacements, and then just generally the increased costs that we're all experiencing, so.
Yeah.
Those are the reasons for the increase, but I guess for staff, just to verify that.
It's understandable from time to time that there's going to be some increases when you have to add in maintenance costs for replacing tanks or pumps or whatever it might be. But as long as it's still saving us something, it's obviously worth going into. But if this continues and it's another 10% in 3 years or so on, at what point do we just start buying gas at the holiday stations? Obviously not right now, but hopefully the Crow Wing County Commission has that discussion near future.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be ready to make the motion to recommend approval of the Crow Wing County fuel sales agreement.
And I do so second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, going forward, we have a review for classification of non-conservation tax forfeit parcels. Just one parcel. If you want to explain this one, Jesse, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So this is a tax forfeit parcel over at the southwest corner of 4th Street and Washington, or 210. Be like the Cricket Wireless building. they're in that building as well. Essentially, the strip of parcel is mostly just parking lot. Staff feels like we don't have any vested interest in a future use for a street or a trailer park for that, obviously. So we think it would be better sold to a private party, most likely that adjacent property owner.
I have a question on that. That parking lot was recently paved. Did we pave it?
Not as far as I'm aware.
But we own it.
I think Crow Wing County tax forfeit is the listed owner.
Crow Wing County, okay. Interesting. Okay. That was my only question. Any questions? Okay.
No, so with no questions, I'll make a motion to follow staff recommendation. Yeah, concurring with the non-conservation status of this parcel so that it can be placed on the county tax forfeit land sale.
And second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? None, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
It looks like our, let's see. I got an old sheet here. I think I went out of order.
Yeah.
So number 5 is going to be, we're going back to number 4. Change order for the improvement 20-07 Rotary Park Sewer Lining Project. If you want to walk us through that one, Mr. Dean?
Yes, sir. I apologize. This one was added after our conversation.
Sure.
So essentially, this is for some additional work that Michaels is helping us out with our sewer lining project. They found a section that had a bit of an inverted slope, so it was kind of holding a material. I don't have a picture in the packet, but if you'd like to see a picture of the material they removed, I'd be happy to give it to you.
I'll take your word.
It was a considerable amount, so they wanted some extra compensation as that was beyond the scope. But as their camera crew and cleaning unit is out in the project, we found that there was a potential significant savings to have them come out and start doing some cleaning and cameraing of the future segments of that line along East River Road. Essentially at $3,400 per day up to 5 days. It might go faster, but we'll assume 5 days for that total amount. This is to help guide our design for that next section of sewer lining. Really what this is for is if there's any of those sections that turn out after cleaning and cameraing that they are not able to be lined, we can scope them more appropriately as more of a cut out and replace rather than go in with a guess that they're all lineable and then find out during that process that it's not able to be lined, and then we're doing a change order into that project to do a cutout and replace, and it'd be a pretty significant one. So this is kind of helping guide that design and scope so that way we can avoid that future change order. What I was told is to bring a camera crew of this specialty at a different time to do that would be a considerable amount higher than this, maybe towards like the $100,000 mark.
Oh. Okay. My only concern would be if we had to put this off for a year or two, would we be doing it all over again? To make sure that it hasn't gone from this much to this much, or would we just take the information from this year?
We would be pretty confident if there's no separations in it that we could continue to line it. Most likely that's over decades or several years that those things separate. So we would feel very comfortable even if it was a couple years out that whatever the camera results reveal that would be very similar to what it would be in a few years.
And other question, for this part where they found the sediment, or whatever you want to call it, are we actually removing any of that pipe, or are we able to clean it out and still line it?
We did clean it and line it.
Okay. Good. Any more discussion, questions?
Just a question then for me. So the additional cost here, what account would that be paid from? And has Connie been involved with that conversation?
I didn't talk with Connie because we can absorb this through the current project. So there was some dollars that were bid into this project for sealing any joints that might have separated. We have found through the initial cleaning that there was no joints in the project that needed to be cleaned or sealed, and there most likely won't be. So that savings alone should be able to cover most of this change order.
Yeah, the engineer's estimate was significantly higher than what we ended up getting bid, if I remember right.
I don't remember that one, sorry.
It was before your time. Was I right? Am I right on
I
that?
think so, and, so essentially this overage is a shift within the project budget.
Yes.
Essentially.
So we're prepaying for, I guess, a future project with a little bit of the funds that are available in this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Dan, if I may.
Yep.
And the only comment that I'll add, I mean, taking this opportunity now is certainly, in my opinion, the prudent thing to do. The information that can be found out through this service now, as Mr. Dean kind of indicated, if it were to happen later, the cost would be exponentially higher. So this is, in my opinion, a smart investment.
With that, then, Mr. Chair, I am ready to recommend approval of the attached change order number 1 for a total amount of $20,400.
And I so second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to direction on active code enforcement. This is Mr. James Kramvik. Go ahead and walk us through these if you'd like.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is bringing 6 properties tonight before SPW for review. First property is 408 2nd Avenue Northeast. This is a repeat grass and weeds property. They have received their second set of 3 citations. When it does reach the second time, they don't receive a warning letter. It goes right to citation process. They have received their 3 citations, and now staff is recommending to abate the grass immediately. Next property, 924 7th Avenue Northeast. This is also a grass one. This is the second round as well. They have received their 3 citations. They have not contacted staff. Staff recommends abating the grass immediately on this property as well.
Okay.
Next property is 1201 Norwood Street. This property is also a grass and weeds. This is their second round of 3 citations. Staff recommends abating the grass immediately. This one is a vacant parcel. And the last one with the grass would be 1306 Oak Street. This is also the second round of citations for grass and weeds. They've received their 3 citations, and staff is also recommending to abate the grass immediately.
Excellent.
The next one is 902 5th Avenue Northeast. This one, they've received their warning letter on this one. It's a large branch that had fallen over. Complaint was made by the neighbor on this property. So they received their warning letter along with 3 citations. Staff has heard no contact on this one. So staff recommends sending a 10-day order to correct letter and begin working with the city attorney for abatement of the broken, damaged tree limb. Because this is a larger piece of the tree here, and there's potential that something could happen on the property, we would need to get an administrative warrant to abate this one. And the last one is 516 First Avenue Northeast. So they've received their warning letter on this one. We've been working, for quite some time with this property owner, trying to work with them to get the soffit taken care of. Roof issues, soffit issues on this one. They've received their 3 citations, have no longer contacted staff. So staff recommends sending essentially a 10-day order to correct letter and then issuing a $300 citation every 30 days until November 1st on this property.
Mr. Erickson?
So, yeah, just a question for James, or more of a comment. I guess I just like to clarify with all these, and you just went through them, but for the first 4, they're all the recommendations to abate the grass immediately. And then the last 2 is to do the 10-day letter to correct for both of them, one being the tree limb and then the other one being exterior.
Yep, and the only difference is 902 Fifth Avenue Northeast. That's one that we can work with the city attorney to get a warrant to enter the property to abate it. The last one, we can't work with the attorney to abate essentially property maintenance. So with a lot of these properties that have property maintenance issues, we've gone to that route of a $300 citation every 30 days until November 1st, which we kind of look at as not really being able to repair things after that date, potentially because of snow and weather.
Okay. And again, I know you said this, but I think it's good to just reiterate that all of these properties have received their 3 citations, and we're well down the road with trying to reach them, trying to work with.
That's correct.
And I don't think any of them have contacted the city. Correct?
516 First Avenue Northeast originally did. That's why it goes back to 54, but then have no longer contacted the city for that property.
Okay. Is that owner occupied?
I believe it is.
Is that the only owner occupied of these 6?
I'm not sure about the broken tree limb. I know 1306, I believe, is owner occupied as well. The 2 of them are rentals, and 2 of them I think are probably gonna end up going to delinquency.
Okay. All right.
One question. The property that we're looking at here, is that a garage?
Yep, that's an accessory structure.
Okay. And if I might continue,
Yep.
and forgive me, I got a handful of comments on this one,
Go for it.
or on
You
these.
got time.
Good. So a number of these are lawn issues. One is a downed tree limb, significant size. The last one, disrepair to the exterior envelope of a garage, creating potential for dangerous mold growth, structural degradation, damage to interior finishes, being a garage, it's not an inhabited space, so not so important. And then a question, is with a lot of these properties being, no response, do we as a city, as a community, do we think that we have potential here to consider alternative methods, for handling issues like this? Some examples that I'd like to bring up, I'm going to wind up referencing initiatives described by the agency, communityprogress.org, and they illustrate a number of various ways different U.S. cities have enlisted the local businesses and community members. And if you'll allow me, I'll go through a few of those. But with these examples, so a question, do we have an option for forgivable loans that might self-expire if a property is kept in good maintenance for a set time? Another question, does our city have resource opportunities, for examples like maybe partnerships or whatnot, free and discounted supplies through local establishments or nonprofit agencies. For example, home improvement store program in which people could apply for free or discounted supplies or potentially rental equipment. Another example, establishing a community cleanup program made up of volunteers and donations. It could be similar to a Habitat for Humanity program, or American Institute of Architects has a program known as Freedom by Design. Let's see, the city could extend code enforcement cases to community cleanup programs, allowing the volunteer groups to step in, and this could potentially create lasting positive impressions. And then the last 2 thoughts, the ARPA funds, possibility for repair grant programs for homeowners to repair code violations, or even another example was where ARPA funds were used for community tool sheds and community cleanups. So just a handful of things that other cities have tried, and to some success. Maybe we could, I don't know what the process would be, but it seems like there's opportunity to, maybe reach out to enlist community involvement
Yeah, this being our first summer, taking this approach, coming through council, especially in these cases that we don't hear back from. I think the plan is for us to look at this when we hit November, see how successful this was, how we, how many responses did we start seeing, or how much of a result did we start seeing with this process compared to how often did we not hear any responses like we did on most of these today. And at that time, I think it's a good time to discuss any options that we could put together as far as putting out options for homeowners to have resources there.
Yeah.
They are there, and the city's willing to work with everybody, but it starts with that contact. So I think the more we can figure out the best way to actually start the conversation with them, the more we can have potential for programs like that.
Yep.
Mr. Erickson?
Yeah, so a couple things. First, sounds like some really interesting resources. I was thinking, maybe some of the neighborhood groups could, if we could suggest, I don't know if we could suggest to them, but that might be interesting to see if they have any interest in any of these. Because a lot of these would have to be voluntary
Yep.
by the property owner or kind of working with the property owner. So maybe the neighborhood groups would be able to raise that with them. And then also you mentioned just with this new kind of process, resolution change that we're kind of operating under. It might be interesting, not to burden staff, but if you could, are you able to put together a report of kind of just how many, you're probably keeping track of this already, but how many properties we've acted upon, kind of almost a before and after, so that we could see the success of.
Yeah.
Perhaps those conversations have already happened.
We did talk about it a little
Okay.
bit as we were going through that. I think before last meeting, just to give James and his staff time to start putting that together. Because it's hard for us to just think back and look at, think back how many were easily taken care of. But there have been a significant number. But then now we're starting to see that for the first round of repeat offenders with either vacant homes or homes that just aren't responding to us for whatever reason. We're just here to try to figure out how to get that contact and get that conversation going.
Yeah, apologies for the oversight. There was another example that I wanted to offer for consideration, and that might even be, kind of a partnership with the high school program, knowing that they actually have a construction course. The students wind up, constructing a house, so they have these programs within their institution, and following similar to the AIA program of Freedom by Design, where it was students who would get out and help homeowners with accessibility issues. Maybe these organizations of students could get out there.
Yeah.
And, again, it might foster some better outcomes.
It sounds like a great idea. I know every time you have issues with getting the public or even our staff or anybody on private property, especially when there's a danger there, you're going to have legal issues getting in the way. But it's a conversation to have, going into the fall or in the winter here to figure out if that's something we can do next year. Especially just asking our attorney to see what risks are involved with any of them that we decide are worth trying.
I got one other comment too, and, again, sounds like some great resource. I don't mean to push back or anything, but I think another, concern is that if that would lengthen the process, because I know, I hear from neighbors about these types of properties. I've been calling the 3 citations, it already drags it out, and so if one of these were to prolong that process too, that would be problematic too. But that's why I kind of think the neighborhood groups getting out in front of them before we start getting those complaints too, I could see being really beneficial.
Yeah, great thoughts.
Yeah, definitely something to revisit in the next few months. But other than that, anybody have any objections to staff's recommendations moving forward with these 6 properties on the memo?
No, I think those recommendations make sense. Am I able to make a motion to approve following staff recommendations, or should I list each?
Just make one motion, I think would be the best way to do it.
I make a motion that we follow staff recommendations related to each of these properties.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we can adjourn to the council meeting.